And we are live here on the Steelers Depot live stream here on this Monday, May 2nd, this post draft weekend. As always, my name is Alex Kozora. Alongside me is Dave Bryan here for the next hour to answer any questions on your guys' mind. I do want to start though by just testing Dave's audio. I know there's been some weird stuff with the stream software I have here, so just give me 1 second and we'll do a quick test. Dave, if you could talk for a moment and then just chat, let me know if you guys can hear him. If not, I'll switch out the buttons and we'll be good to go.
Test, test, test. Any David Lee Roth fans out there? Test, test, test.
Yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the podcast today. Went off the rails a little bit, but I think that was earned considering how busy and how obviously football focused it's been the last couple of days. So if you guys could just let me know in the chat if you hear Dave, and once we get that settled, we'll be good to go. A little echo, but good, says David O. Anyone else? Just want to make sure that there is at least audio. Good to go, sis Jonathan. All right, I think we're good. All right, so we'll start things
Is,
off
is
here.
anybody else besides David O hearing some echo?
Yeah, let us know. I think it sounds okay. It might be sometimes whenever there's the first initial words, there's a bit of an echo, but it sounds good on my end. Actually, sounds really good on my end. So I think we're good here. So I just wanted to
Okay.
make sure of that. And again, if you guys want to guarantee your question to be asked and answered by Dave and myself, you can send us a super chat as well. And if you guys could like the stream, tin can Dave. All right, hold on. Let me try something else then. I'm not sure if this will either eliminate his audio and you can't hear him, or it'll fix it. So I'm gonna try this button. And Dave, can you test again?
Check, check, check. Can you hear me now? Testing. Any echo?
You either got a whole lot better or it was silent. So you guys let me know if you heard Dave do that last test. Fixed? OBS is the weirdest thing. I've muted the audio and it somehow fixes that. So we'll take it. We'll move on here. Again, if you want a super chat, you can go to the front of the line here. We're going to probably wrap up the stream right at 8 o'clock because it's been a very long couple of days for Dave, myself, and the Depot team. So we'll get into the questions, though, starting things off as the headline news is Pittsburgh officially declining the fifth-year option on linebacker Devin Bush. First question comes from more of a comment, but we'll read it out the same from Mike Adesso. Just want to again say thank you and kudos to the Depot team for all the hard work done on the draft, and it's really appreciative. All of the feedback and interactions with us you all do daily. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate your support. Here from James Krzemski says, "Hey, Dave and Alex, wanted to thank you guys for the awesome Steelers coverage. By far the best there is right now. Very excited to see how this season plays out. Thank you, James, and we're excited too." First question does come from Mike. Says, "With the news of Bush's fifth-year option being declined, what's your prediction of Pickett option in 4 years being picked up? Yes or no?" I say no. Unfortunately, that's Mike's prediction. I have no idea. Let's see this guy get in a Steelers uniform and take a snap and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to predict all those things that are impossible to do.
Yeah, I'm not either. Look, obviously the hope is that you are. The hope is that you do that and then you sign into a multi-deal, lucrative franchise quarterback deal at that point. That's the single best problem to have, because obviously when you get to that point, what the fifth-year option on that for a quarterback would be, I couldn't even imagine what it would be. This far out like that. So I mean, it's impossible to predict that kind of stuff. And look, let's just see if he can get to training camp. And if he doesn't win the starting job out of training camp, let's see if he can at least get the backup role. And you would think at some point during unless things go smashingly well for the offense and Mitch Trubisky, that Kenny Pickett's going to play some during his rookie season. So a lot of time to figure that kind of stuff out.
Absolutely. Like you said, hopefully that option is picked up whenever the time comes, but it's a long ways away. In Pittsburgh's recent track record with Edmonds and Bush being declined in back-to-back years, not a great sign with how this team is drafted. Obviously, Bush's injury, played a role in that, but you hopefully hope that streak ends with Kenny Pickett. Let's see. We have one from Jonathan Mason. Do you guys feel Pickett can be an above average starter in the league? If so, I feel like this team could be closer than we think at making a run, especially having a cheap quarterback deal the next few years. Dave, where do you come in? What is, I guess, with the potential ceiling for Kenny Pickett?
Heaven knows, man. To be honest with you, look, I mean, we just got through, rating all these quarterbacks and spent a lot of time on the tape and ranking them, and then lo and behold, Kenny Pickett becomes the first quarterback drafted not only in the first round but in the first couple of rounds, on top of it there. Uh, I mean, where is his ceiling? Some people will say, look, here's the good thing about Kenny Pickett spending all that time in college and really only coming to the forefront, during his final season there, is that he was able to progress some in that final season. Now, you know, I I would say the odds are at this point what you kind of see is what you get. But I mean, you don't want to, put a cap on this guy, and obviously how Matt Canada uses him and fits him in that offensive scheme, which you would think would kind of fit what Kenny Pickett's strengths, at least right out of the shoot. Think back to 2004 when Ben Roethlisberger was a rookie, and uh, Pickett is a more refined quarterback overall than Ben Roethlisberger was coming out. Now, Ben
Hmm.
Roethlisberger was more of the extend the play, strong arm type of quarterback. And then, when he did get in his rookie season, you saw a lot of condensed formations, a lot of running of the football. And then it didn't take long into the third, fourth game there. What was it? The one against the Browns there, where uh, extending plays outside the pocket and taking a hit and completing the ball down the field to Plaxico Burris. And lo and behold, Ben becomes Ben. And you go on that, obviously that long streak there. And I mean, who would have really thought during his rookie season, specifically, that Ben would have became that kind of guy. Now, obviously, their playing styles are different there, but the positive thing to hang your hat on here with Kenny Pickett is he's entering the NFL a lot more NFL ready in my mind than Ben Roethlisberger was, and really Ben Roethlisberger. For a while there, it was it was Chuck and Duck, right, for the most part. Let Ben be Ben and that kind of stuff, like that. Then Ben actually became a different quarterback, later on in his career, and actually made strides in that aspect of it. So, I mean, realistically, we could sit here and blow smoke up, one way or the other, but I mean, we're just going to have to wait and see and sit back and enjoy this ride.
We will. My NFL comp for Pickett was something between Jared Goff and Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't know if you ever considered those guys to be above average at any point in their careers. Goff did, go to a Super Bowl, made two Pro Bowls, so maybe he was there for a brief time. So I think short answer, yes, he could be Pickett in terms of that above average category if everything kind of breaks perfectly for him. But he'll need that really strong group around him. To me, the talent isn't so where he's going to be a top seven quarterback in football. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope to be wrong about that, but I don't know if the traits themselves, because usually those top 5 to 7 guys have those really dynamic traits. And I don't think I see that quite with Kenny Pickett. So I think that ceiling is capped into that top 11 to 15 kind of range. Have a super chat here, $5 from Jason Purdy. What will Pickens and Austin's role with a crowded wide receiver room be? What's your opinion on the DB room as of right now? Y'all are killing it. Thanks. Thank you, Jason, for the super chat. It's a good problem to have so much talent. Austin obviously will play quite a bit in the slot, and Pickens may rotate in. So I don't know exactly how things are going to go. You go into camp and see who can play where and how these guys are picking up the playbook and those kinds of things. But Pickens profiles as the outside receiver more than Austin, who played outside in college but should be a majority time slot guy in the NFL.
Yeah, the good thing about Pickett is he did play, even though it was a limited basis in the slot, at Georgia. He was primarily an X at Georgia. He has played some Z overall, so at least you got a guy that you remember when James Washington came out, was drafted. He was a right side only
Hmm.
wide receiver, and then had to overcome some of that stuff, and that's the good thing is you have position flexibility not only with a guy like George Pickens, but with Calvin Austin the third as well too. Now, obviously Austin, and we heard as much over the weekend. There probably going to be more of a slot guy. That's where he best fits and translate at the NFL level. And as Alex and I talked on the podcast this morning, there, if you look at the snaps and all like that, it's you know he's mostly played outside, so he's going to have to really kind of transition a little, back into kind of playing more of that slot role and all that stuff that comes along with it. But I would think that they wouldn't try to throw too much on these guys' plates. At least early out of the
Hmm.
shoot. Now they will get them on the field. I don't think there's a concern about having to wait. Remember Martavis Bryant was like 6 or 7, 8 games into his rookie season it took for him to get on the field. I obviously don't think that's the case on there, but I think you do want to kind of have defined roles for Pickens, whether it be the Z for him, and then obviously with Austin, in the slot there, and then just try to build off of that stuff from there. And obviously you got a very accomplished guy at the X there in Diontae Johnson, and I think they put it best. You get those guys all out there on the field. It's going to be hard to single cover one of those, or double. You can't double cover
Right.
all of them.
Right.
And look, we just need more explosive plays down the field from this group, and that includes Chase Claypool in that bunch as well.
Agreed. And then in terms of the DB room, there's still some uncertainty about who's going to fill which kind of role, but I'm just glad to have some options, some depth, some flexibility, some talent. You bring in a Levi Wallace, I think KZ, I'm not sure what he has left in the tank, but he was healthy last year. And so that's a positive thing for him playing all 17 games coming off a torn Achilles back in, I guess that would have been 2020 or 2019, whatever year it was. So that's a
And that's
positive.
a devastating injury too,
Hmm.
generally. For him to come back from that, like you say, and play the amount of games, and he's got experience playing kind of all over. Maybe he's going to be the a good unique chess piece for this defense.
I think he's capable of that. Now, I had a Dallas buddy who said Casey did not play well last year. That Dan Quinn's like his biggest supporter. I think he coached him in Atlanta as well, brought him into Dallas, and they obviously let him walk, and he was out there as a free agent for a while. So I don't know how expectations really should be for Casey, but there is another guy there that can play the slot, that can play safety. He's got good ball skills. He can come up ahead. He plays bigger than his size, kind of a quasi Mike Hilton. So we'll see. We'll get a feel for it this summer, but there's some talent there. There's some more youth there, versatility there. Trey Norwood going into a second year, I think that's going to be big for him. So I like the direction it's going. Another super chat here from our buddy Lewis Grove, $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Lewis or Luis. I'm not exactly sure the pronunciation. I apologize, but he says, "Have you had a chance to dig into the undrafted running backs yet? If so, have we upgraded the position? I haven't finished today's podcast. I apologize if you broke it down on the cast. We did not talk about it too much today. We talked about it some on Sunday. I haven't watched much Jalen Warren, but I did put him on my way too early Steelers roster prediction for his size and overall productivity. I like Mateo Durant from Duke, though. I mean, he was a guy that has 4.38 speed, that catches the ball really well, and kind of can be that third down kind of guy. No power, slighter frame, but a different body type and style of play that may make him stand out in that backfield.
Yeah, and I've watched a lot of both of them to this point there, and the thing that sticks out about Sanders, especially y'all have watched, is just the one the last season with Oklahoma State there, but he invites contact, and we'll get some yards after contact that way. Not a very explosive run producer, especially just last season, but a guy that can break some tackles and get some yardage that way. Kind of a one cut and kind of power through it. Like to see, even for his, he a little bit shorter height there. Like to see him kind of not stand up so much at the end of runs there, if you know what I mean. They'd like to see him get kind of more of a better center of gravity. I kind of thought watching initially about him, about that running back there in Jacksonville, the undrafted free agent. Who's that? James
Robinson, yep.
Robinson. There was kind of my first kind of initial feel for him, and then with Durant, a guy that had an okay amount of explosive plays at Duke there, and I think, as Alex said, one of the more attractive things with him is he caught a lot of balls, out of the backfield on top of it. I haven't really looked at anything as far as pass pro, and look, the Steelers aren't going to put any of these guys on the field if they can't have some level of confidence that they're going to pick up, know what they're picking up, and handle pass pro that way. And I don't know how much, if any, special teams value either one of those two guys bring. It's still early on in the process. I haven't kind of researched that stuff out either. So it's way too early to tell. I wouldn't be surprised if this team signed a veteran on the cheap here. We'll see what kind of look. Teams are going to make some cuts right now after the draft, and some people are going to be on the street here. It wouldn't shock me if the Steelers added another veteran guy. I don't know, 27, 28 years old that maybe has a handful of special team snaps experience and obviously has played on offense some. So we'll get a better and I got most of what I've looked at is TV tape on a lot of these kids too. So I want to look at some all 22 end zone views on guys like Durant and Sanders as well too moving forward.
It would be worthwhile to add a veteran. I don't know what name that would be. Maybe I can kind of comb through a list later tonight or tomorrow and see some names. There obviously isn't an obvious name that's out there, but maybe we can find someone who sort of fits. Durant did do some special teams work earlier in his Duke career. I think he had 6 tackles. I think his
All right.
sophomore season at Duke or something like that. So there's potentially some value there. And again, he is a smaller guy. Is he going to be able to really cover super well? I'm not quite sure, but I think he was a pretty fearless type of dude. And Warren, I don't know if he'll offer it at his size, but potentially, we'll see. C Rex says wasn't for a quarterback this year, period. But since they went Pickett, I'll back him. I remember the 1980s. Hope we are not heading back there. Thought we should have gone more O line help. Hope all is well. I understand on the O line, but my thought was they hit it so hard in the free agency period. Adding James Daniels and Mason Cole, and obviously re-signing Shaquille McCoy for and keeping him at right tackle, presumably that they really weren't going to address it as aggressively in the draft. They were going to use the draft to hit other positions like receiver, where they got gutted in free agency and didn't really add much of anybody. I think free agency was their avenue to repair and improve the offensive line.
Yeah, look, that's another the offensive line, the tackle position specifically, right, is something that bears watching as some of these uh, uh, initial cuts, post draft around the league happen. You map it out, and if anybody missed Alex Kozora's initial 53 man roster prediction that he threw up there on the site this morning, man, it's obviously Dan Moore Jr. and Chikwama Okorafor and Joe Haig. And how many of you would want to see Joe Haig have to play the any tackle spot in 2022? I know I don't, and the guy behind him right now you would think is kind of Chaz Green as well too, and you don't want to see that happen either if you can afford it. Who knows? Maybe one of these undrafted rookies will pan out and give you something to be excited about. But that's yet another position. Running back, outside linebacker, tackle. I mean, those are three positions that I think the Steelers should watch closely here, especially this initial round of cuts. Right after the draft here, and don't forget that. I mean, history has shown us over the years that even after this team breaks OTAs, there's a good chance they still sign or add one or two players to their offseason roster that wind up making the 53 man roster. So I think it's going to remain a fluid situation, especially at running back, tackle, and outside linebacker depth chart. Moving on forward into the summer.
Agreed. Last year is a great example of that. What, three guys that made a team after the draft, right? Millette, Turner, and Melvin Ingram, correct? I don't know if I'm missing anybody else there.
Yeah, I'd have to go look at the chart, but that sounds about right.
But Millette was
Obviously,
signed. Millette was signed post draft, right? I know Ingram and Turner definitely were.
right.
I believe Millette was as well. So I don't believe this roster's done being constructed yet. You saw this team sign KZ hours after the draft ended, so kind of more proof of that. I will say in defense of Joe Haig, he's a veteran that you trust. He can play both spots. He's proven to play both spots. Can also play both guard spots in a pinch as well. And there is at least some level of comfort in that type of guy with that resume. And that resume really isn't seen by a lot of guys. For a rookie to do that, not saying they can't, but it is going to be something that they'll have to really strongly prove.
Right.
$10 super chat from Jason Purdy. Thank you again. Jason got them flying in right now, so I'll get to the other ones here quickly. Unpopular opinion. I think Kenny shouldn't play this year like Mahomes. What's your thoughts? I also think the Ravens have the best shot at winning the North. Your thoughts? Thanks again, man. I don't like to put quarterbacks in a box and say they should or should not play. I think you go into camp, you see how he looks, how well he picks up the playbook, how well he takes care of the football, commands the offense, shows leadership, and all those things. So I'm not saying to start the guy for sure. I think you go into camp with an open mind, let that competition battle out, let those guys make each other better and push each other and go from there. So I don't want to go into the mindset of start or sit. You let the situation play out.
Once again, like I said, just in an earlier answer there, one of the upsides here when you're dealing with a guy like Kenny Pickett is he's you know, he's the most NFL ready. You would think coming of this class coming in here. So another good thing about that is, and it might seem insignificant, he's not going to have to clutter his mind with getting settled in a new
Right.
city, learning what areas of town to not go into, or all that little stuff, finding a place to live and getting family set up and all those little things. So I mean, he can really hit the ground running here. He obviously been around the Steelers facility all these years. Probably loosely knows what to kind of expect here. Knows the coaching staff and all like that. So. It's a little bit different with Roethlisberger because Roethlisberger came out, early there as well too. So, and Kevin Colbert said right out of the chute with him, he's going to sit. All right. Now he has made no such statement with Kenny Pickett and Mike Tomlin. Obviously said several times over the weekend that be given a chance to compete. So that's where you start at right there. Give him a chance to compete, and if he is the best man, if he outplays the rest of them in camp in the preseason, then you let him be the week one starter. But if he doesn't, then you let whoever wins that job open the season, and then you go along the season with maybe a little bit shorter hook and see about getting Kenny on the field. So I don't think it's a slam door situation. Much like it might have been with Roethlisberger, and look,
Hmm.
we all know how 2004 played out for Roethlisberger. There went from the number 4 quarterback to the number 1 quarterback almost overnight.
And I'll have an article in the morning, at least hopefully, on Steelers Depot that talks about some of what we're referring to when we talk about Pickett being pro ready. We use that phrase a lot. He's pro ready. He's day one ready. He can come in and compete right away. What does that mean? What does that look like? How does he fit in the Matt Canada's offense? I'll have some clips and examples and explanation of that in the morning on Steelers Depot. $10 super chat from Chupa Thingy 6173. Good to hear from you again. Says, good evening, gentlemen. First of all, super excited about the Pickens grab in round two, but everyone on lettered networks has Pickett as a second coming of Brady. What am I not seeing that they are? I'm not sure if anyone has gone that far. I know you're being a little hyperbolic there. I'm sure. I think some people like Pickett. Some people have been more mixed on, and I think Chris Sims is a fan of him. So I don't know exactly specifically what some people are saying, but I don't know really how to best answer that because I haven't really followed super closely what everyone else is saying in terms of reviewing and grading the Pickett selection.
Yeah, I haven't paid. I mean, obviously, you see some of it on the mainstream media and all like that, and uh, time's going to tell on this. I mean, I still think though. Here's a good thing. Another thing with him, he's used to all those motions. He's taken some snaps under center. A lot of the things that we think that Matt Canada is going to ask him to do are going to play right in. Play right into his strengths at least initially there. I mean, I haven't heard anybody call him the next Tom Brady or anything like that. Or look, if you get a top 10 quarterback out of this and one that can play, give you a chance to win some games as early, as his second season, you've done good here. And look, I mean, Roethlisberger was what, the third quarterback drafted in his year, and look how that turned out. And Pickett is obviously the first quarterback in a weak quarterback class, but as you said, we'll show, in your post, you'll show why he's kind of more considered NFL ready than most of them.
Right. And I think just overall, it feels like most analysts were down on this quarterback class. Obviously, Pickett went 20th and not first or second or top five. And so I think you understand there's a relativity to this quarterback class that Pickett may have been the best one of a historically bad class. I use the phrase bad in the sense of where they fell. One guy goes to 20, next guy does not go till 74. That hasn't happened in decades. And so just whatever it does, all the opinions right now are just opinions. Get on the field and we'll see what happens, and that's ultimately what's going to matter here.
And look, even good or bad, what he does in his, if he sees the field in the first season, uh, the more important, you get into like game 30, game 40 of his career. That's when you really start getting a good idea. Because how many times have we seen quarterbacks come into this league and kind of play well initially, and then defensive coordinators kind of catch up with kind of what they're trying to do with them, and then that quarterback backslides after that there. So
Sure.
It's going to be a process, and that's the joy about this. They're not going to make any rash decisions. I wouldn't think in this, and obviously, I don't think they should rush him to the starting job unless they really think he's ready. This shouldn't be, well, we drafted him in the first round. We got to get this guy on the field as soon as possible. Now, I think that will happen just by him having that experience and all like that. But the last thing you want to do too is kind of ruin this kid's confidence if he's not ready. And a lot of this obviously will play out. Would you like to see him process better? Yes. Would you like to see him uh, a stronger arm? Yes. Would you like to see as Alex has pointed out numerous times, the carriage of the football be better? Yes. I mean, there's obviously things that he's going to have to work on, but it's going to be a maturation process, just as it would be with any other quarterback.
And as F War 83 says, for what it's worth, Canada recruited Pickett specifically to run his offense. I think that counts for something. It does. And like I said, they've known Pickett for 6 years now. Canada, when when he recruited him, when he was at Pitt, and then Tomlin Colbert knowing him his entire Panthers career. So no team has probably been as familiar with their franchise quarterback as Pittsburgh is currently with Kenny Pickett before they even really get him in the door. Next super chat comes from Lewis Grove. Another one. Thank you so much. Says, I've been trying to build a Steelers Twitter space. Would you guys be open to being guests for about 20 minutes one night? I think you guys would enjoy it. Sure. Just contact me on Twitter or let me know when you like to do it. And if I'm free, I'd be more than happy to. Let's see. Next super chat comes from, and it's a question, just not a super chat. Actually, there was a super chat. I apologize. Let me get to that first here from Jonathan, who says, just to say thanks for the work y'all do. The only ones who read the tea leaves with the Steelers. How about that George Pickens reaction video? Yeah, that was that was funny. I mean, I don't know how to take that one, but very
How many
unique
of us have
reaction.
looked at the how many of us have watched the Steelers game in the fourth quarter with that same Yeah, that's the first thing that I don't obviously don't know much about his character. I've seen a couple of interviews with him and all like that, but I don't take him as a guy that's wound too tight. Gonna be interested to see. And look, he's still young too, so I think he's probably gonna be a fun kid to watch. Mature overall here, and looked like he was having a little bit of fun. And look, I mean, how euphoric must that be to be in your? I assume that's his house. I don't know if it was a draft party or someone else's house or whatnot. To stand there and watch yourself get drafted on television
Hmm.
there. So I know we look at it every year in, year out, take that stuff for granted, but that's a monumental moment for that kid. But it's quite the pose, and one that I'm sure a lot of memes, is that the word the kids say,
It
memes
is.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of memes to come out of that.
They're already starting based on what I saw. By the way, just go. There's a lot of great draft calls this week. Go check out Seattle. They posted one of Bo Melton being called in the seventh round, and John Schneider, Pete Carroll talking to him, and just a really emotional but special moment that tells you what this means to these guys that have worked so hard to get to this place. D boys, a quick question here: is it okay that I am a Chiefs fan and I like the Steelers? Sure, you can like whoever you want to like, D boys. I'm not here to tell you who you should root for. If you want to root for multiple teams or like other teams, it's all up to you, my dude.
Boy, they got they've added that this offseason. I don't want to turn this into Chiefs Depot, but Sky Moore and man, who else did they add over there? Alex?
Or just in general, or offensively, or how you talking
Yeah, I
about
mean
this?
just in the draft. I mean, obviously Sky Moore
They
was a
got
get there.
yeah McDuffie in the first round. They
They just
signed
traded for somebody today from the Texans as well too, I think, didn't they?
yep Blondie Johnson for
Right.
like 2024 seventh round conditional pick. They signed Justin Reed to replace Tyrod Matthew. They lose Daniel Sorensen, which is addition by subtraction. Most Chiefs fans would say so. Yeah, obviously the loss of Tyreek Hill was pretty substantial, but you got Mahomes, you got Reed, you got a good offensive line. They're going to be fine. Next question comes from 103 people here in the chat, so thank you guys very much. Coming off the draft, uh, Tang Tangatau attack with the Steelers not trading up to get their top guy. Does that mean they weren't sold on him being a franchise-changing player because you don't leave it up to chance if you believe that Pickett is? Pittsburgh reportedly tried to move up. They were trying to get a deal done at 15 with Houston. Houston stayed there. It takes two to tango. You can try to move up, but it doesn't always happen that way. And the quarterbacks fell in the Pittsburgh's lap. So they didn't trade up for Ben, and they got him at 11. So I'm not. I think they showed enough conviction to a take a quarterback there when clearly the rest of the league was down on this class, and B they did reportedly attempt to move up.
I see where the listener's coming from there, obviously, because all off season, one of my or closer we got into draft off season there, one of my fears was are they going to show some sort of conviction here at the 20 spot after going to all these pro days? It was obvious they were interested in this quarterback class here, and were we going to get to the point where maybe they ended up with the second or third quarterback off the board and not the first one? And then we're left to wondering, did they really get their guy in that situation? Now, there are, not only did Kevin Colbert say that the team attempted to trade up, at least we have reports on the other side, specifically, I think, from the Texans, that the Steelers did try to go up there. Now, what was the offer? Who knows there? But at least there seems to have been that conviction there. And then secondly, at least this was the first quarterback off the
Right.
board, so we're not left to wonder, well, was the quarterback that they ended up not their QB1? So I have come I have a lot of inner peace now uh coming out of this thing because of those that info coming out now. Obviously, the first quarterback taken, he was the Steelers QB1, and the fact that we had the report on the other side that they attempted to trade up. And look, for all we know, maybe they tried to go up higher. We might never know how high they attempted to come out there. So I will give them the A for effort in that, and I have a lot more inner peace now with those bits of information.
Yeah, I think that fact and what in terms of them reportedly moving up, and as you said, the fact that he was the first quarterback taken proves that he was the Pittsburgh's top quarterback on the board. Right or wrong, agree or not, and I did not, but the fact that they were able to get the number one guy to me means a lot. Makes me feel better about how things kind of turned out.
Look, no bones about it. I thought that was as soon as they got on the clock, I thought that pick was going to be Malik Willis.
Yep.
I would have bet you $1,000 easily that that would have been Malik Willis.
Reginald's asking about trying to find my roster. It's sticky to the top of the page, so if you just go up here on mobile, it'll probably look a little bit different. But if you just look at the top article sticky and just see the Kozora one, you'll see my roster prediction there, Reginald. Brandon Hatcher, $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Brandon says, love you guys. Any tips for watching college games on these guys, mainly Kenny? If you want to find clips, you can type in Kenny Pickett versus or Pitt offense versus and find, cut ups and things that way. Not highlights, but just every play cut up for a game or every throw for Kenny Pickett, for example. And then in terms of watching it, take notes, watch different parts of the year, watch early in the year, middle of the year, late in the year, watch road games, watch the best team that he played, his best performance, his worst performance. Just get a good variety of him so you really get the best view into what kind of player Pickett or any prospect is.
You know what the best answer is just watch tape and
Hmm.
keep watching tape and keep watching tape. And when you're done, watch more tape. That's the only way that any of us make any progress in trying to evaluate players in this. And it's you're never going to be a finished YouTube scout. Never. You'll learn things every year, things to look for, and that kind of stuff there moving forward. But the key is to just try to watch as much as you earthly can, even if it is just the TV cuts. Now, obviously, when trying to evaluate wide receivers and secondary and stuff like that, and running backs and offense, depending on the position, obviously you would like to have both the end zone and the all 22 wide view. But if all you have is the TV tape, just watch the TV tape. And nowadays these cut ups are a lot shorter, 15, 20 minutes. And if you download if you download any games, and you can use that VLC player with those hot buttons, and man, you can power through some tape that way. But it just goes back to just watch tape.
GSBZ Jonathan, heard you guys mention potential Edge 3 options on the podcast. Left one out that would be my top option. He says that's JPP, of course, referring to Jason Pierre Paul. What's your thoughts on him and chances of the Steelers adding him? Probably pretty low.
Yeah,
What's it?
he's more of a defense. He's more of a
Yeah.
4-3. He's more of a 4-3 rush end. at this point, and that's pretty much what he's been, I think, for most of his career. That's where he's back. That's where he's most comfortable. And now at this point in his career too, he's more of a pin the ears back, get after the quarterback, and that's it, in my opinion. There, so not really overly a strong fit. I wouldn't think with the Steelers with what they do.
Same. Has not really played on his feet. Always been a hand down guy with the Giants and Tampa Bay. Now, granted, Pittsburgh, they'll play with their guys in their hand down more often. Taco is kind of more of a 4-3 end, did play in some 3-4 systems, but probably don't see that fit there for the age and just the system and scheme fit overall. Bernard Johnson, thoughts on Jordan Tucker, undrafted free agent out of UNC. Feels like he has the size, which can contribute highly to his ceiling. Feels like he succeeds better in pass pro than in the run game. I haven't watched any on Tucker yet. We will have a report on him at some point. He does have size. I think he's played both tackle spots in North Carolina, and has good starting experience overall. So don't know much about him as the player, but in a weaker offensive tackle depth chart, there may be an opportunity for him to try to hang on to this roster.
Yeah, I haven't gotten into them yet, so I that's obviously on the to do list as we move forward here.
Russ Openstein, Steelers Depot did their best draft coverage ever. Thank you. Thank you, Russ. Good to hear from you. And Saloon says, similar, amazing work, guys. Best draft coverage by far. What's your AFC North power rankings after the draft? Cheers from Brazil. That's a good question about AFC North power rankings. I don't know what I would do.
I don't have the Steelers at the top.
Yeah, same. I would put Cincinnati in the top spot. I think they've earned that spot and had a overall good offseason. They improved their secondary, they improved their offensive line, their two biggest weaknesses. I don't think they lost a whole lot this winter. So I'd probably put the Bengals at number one.
Yeah, I would. And Baltimore, if they can stay healthy, you think they're going to be in the thick of this thing once again. I would probably have them too. And somebody give me the answer of how long Deshaun Watson is
Right.
going to be out for the Browns. That's going to go a long way in giving you probably what I think of the Browns at this point.
Yeah, fair point there. I was going to say the same. The Deshaun Watson suspension length is the elephant in the room right now in terms of where the Browns could potentially be at this year. Jason Purdy, I think we should trade Deontay for a corner. The player for player deals of that magnitude, pretty rare that that happens. I don't know what corner that would be, and I expect Deontay to stay put this year.
I do as well.
Let me
I
scroll.
think if they were going to deal him, you would have seen them deal him during the draft. But
Right.
now that they haven't, they'll let him. And we'll obviously see what happens contractually with him as we get deeper into the summer. I still have this feeling in my gut that they're not going to extend him, but I would expect him to be, obviously with the Steelers in 2022 at the least.
Tyler DeGiacomo in the chat. Steelers in a rebuild or a reload. They'll always say it's reloading and always competing for a Super Bowl. That's been the mentality that they've had their entire time. Since Ben got there, that was the strategy, and that's a hard thought process to get out of. It really just depends on Kenny Pickett. If Pickett becomes the guy they think and hope that he will be, a franchise quarterback, a clear top 10-ish type of option in football, they're going to be in the same spot they have been in, which is that they're one piece away and they're going to push and win now. And that's going to be their main focus. If Pickett struggles, and obviously this team's going to struggle, and they're going to probably be in a bit more of that rebuild mode. So it really gets defined by Kenny Pickett's play.
Right.
Dakota Smith,
Look, they've got to run the they got to run the football better. Play it.
yeah,
We're going to see if they made the right decisions with that offensive line.
hmm
You know,
crucial year for them.
this season, very you can no longer especially with a young quarterback or a new quarterback in Mitch Trubisky, whoever plays quarterback for you this year. Man, you cannot have the running game that this team's had the last several seasons. And you cannot go through a season on top of that, not with having being in the bottom of the league in explosive passing plays. It's too much, and obviously you're going to have the defense play. That's a given,
Yeah.
in that equation there. But just the defense playing, top 10 is not going to be enough there. You're going to have that running game for this team to succeed. You're going to have to be able to throw the football down the field for 20-yard chunks at a time throughout the season to have a successful 2022 season.
Dakota Smith, Calvin Austin is stronger than people give him credit for. Correct? Is it just me, or does he play bigger than 5'8"? I've seen him battle for a couple of 50-50 balls that lead me to this opinion. Yeah, Frisman Jackson said that he plays bigger. He plays like someone at 6'1", 6'2". He's a good leaper, 39-inch vertical, and I don't know exactly how strong he is in terms of breaking tackles and those kinds of things, but I think he does play bigger than his frame would suggest. And again, he's got big hands, or big hands for his frame, 9 1/4. That's bigger than George Pickens, who's much taller and a little bit heavier than Austin is as well. So I think that's a pretty valid point you're making, Dakota.
Look, I mean, you see some of those kind of catches, down the sideline and all in some of these games with him, with a contested catch or two. I'll tell you this, and it's a byproduct now. I wish I hadn't watched so much Devin Tompkins film during
Hmm.
the off season there. Uh, Devin Tompkins played uh, like a much bigger player than Calvin Austin did. Now, take that. It's not a slight. I'm just saying from looking at a lot of tape on a small player and how he played much larger. He did not. Calvin Austin plays better than his obviously his height there. But once again, I'm blinded a bit by watching an even smaller guy play at a 6'4" height,
Hmm.
during his career at Utah State. But here's the thing: you hope that, especially with a guy in the slot like that, if predominantly that you're not having to ask him to do play that much more above the rim.
Sure, but with that speed, they're probably going to throw deep to him more than this team has, and so you want him to win out in some of those situations or go across the middle and make that throw if it's a little bit high, and we'll see if Austin can do that. But I think Frisman Jackson believes he's capable of that.
As far as his strength goes, I mean, you see it on some of them catches in the middle of the field there with him trying to fight, for the yardage and all like that. And as we talked on the podcast this morning, you look at a little bit of his blocking. He's got a willingness to some degree to try to help in the blocking department. Now, that willingness is, you know, it depends on I think on the play. He's not 100% in on the blocking aspect, and even when he does go 100% in, because of his size and all like that, he usually gets discarded pretty easily by some of those larger defensive backs there. But here's the thing: who would you rather have in? Obviously, you don't have Juju, and it's an upgrade over a guy like Ray McLeod in there as well too. So will they be able to use him more in the middle of the field and some of those slot fades that, man, I can't get enough of those slot fades, but I got plenty of watching one time Ray McLeod run a slot fade. I didn't need to see that, but at least you got a guy that exits college with a much higher average depth of target and a much higher average depth of completion here. So, you're going to hear people say Dree Archer, who was the WVU kid?
Steve Slayton?
No, Austin.
Oh, Tavon Austin.
Yeah, I mean, he's a much more accomplished, better player as a wide receiver, than either one of those two players there. And the hope is obviously that you can integrate him quickly into the slot and use him in a lot of different ways, whether it be vertically or horizontally, and then produce explosive plays off of that.
Vincent Underwood, what's your opinion on running back Warren? That's Jalen Warren. Mentioned him a little bit ago. He's got some size. I was productive this past year. As Dave said, not a super explosive guy. So fit in just well in Pittsburgh. That's everything they look for: size and not explosive. And Mutated Genome asking, will the Steelers bring in a veteran running back? And Billy mentioning Mike Davis, released today by Atlanta. We'll see. I know Davis kind of caught on strong, as you said, when McCaffrey went down. I guess 2 years
He's
ago, whenever that
29
was.
or 30 though, and I don't think he has the best special teams resume. And under 5'10" guy or no?
I
Mike
don't know his
Davis,
exact height. Yeah, I think he's got some bulk to him, but I don't know
right?
how tall he is. But I mean, Warren's kind of a squatty body. So we'll see. I think certainly
I
could
think
bring in a
Davis
vet.
is plausible. I think Davis is plausible. I don't think you can sit here and give a slam dunk no on a guy like
Right.
Mike Davis.
He is saying Chris Myers was the former O line coach. That's Chris Morgan, who's no longer here. So I'm not entirely sure how that ties in. So we'll see. I'm not opposed to them adding to that group. I think they need to be honest with you.
I do as well too. What
I
about the
guess
Minnesota? Wasn't there a free agent running back out of Minnesota that's still unsigned?
Probably, I can think of just Madison, who's on the team, and the Iowa State kid they drafted last year. So I'm not sure who
Okay.
you're thinking of, but I'm sure that there's somebody out there. KR412, that is repeated twice. With Bouchette now retiring, does he retain his Hall of Fame vote, or will that go to someone else? I don't know exactly the mechanisms of that, but I believe he's not going to be voting in the Hall of Fame anymore if you're retired from your position.
That would be my guess, but that's only a guess, you know.
Yeah, I know he didn't do it a couple years ago, and somebody filled in for him. I think he had surgery or some medical issue or something. So maybe they'll go back to whoever that replacement was. I don't know. Let's see. Marcelo de Lima Rodriguez. Hey, Dave and Alex. Thanks for your awesome work. Greetings from Brazil. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate a lot of support from Brazil tonight. That's always great to hear.
Thank you.
Logan Tucker, how do you think Claypool could do as a slot if he needs to move there for certain packages? Depends how they want to use him. If they want to use him more vertical concepts, down the seam, posts, Steve mentioned the slot fade, that can work. The underneath stuff, I don't know if he has the hands and the consistency in terms of the nuanced route running and that short, three step, one step kind of game stuff to really function particularly well in the slot. So it really comes down to how they want to kind of change how that slot role looks because the past 2 years it's really been a guy that does not run more than 5 yards downfield.
I think now you have the ability to do some big slot stuff with him, and I don't think you should obviously use him as an a 100% slot guy, but I think depending on some situations there, he can be a big what they would call a big slot guy here, a guy that especially too in a running game, a guy that help you dig out a safety that way. There, he obviously played what was it 21%? What was it? 21% of the snaps at Notre Dame, I think, at slot. Here's one of the things that stood out the most to me with Chase Claypool playing the slot at Notre Dame, especially when they ran a lot of those mesh, short crossers underneath and all like that. Most of his drops seem to come within 5 to 7 yards of the line of scrimmage.
Hmm.
In the middle of the field on those kind of plays. Now, in other aspects too, he had some tasty mismatches at times out of there as well too. So no, I don't look. I was at the forefront of this thing a season and a half ago, saying that maybe you should think about using Chase Claypool a little bit more in the slot, and I think they should. I just don't think it should be an every down slot guy, and especially now that you got a guy in Calvin Austin in there that's you're going to pick up that role. But I think I mean, you got all these receivers now. How are you going to get all of them on the field and kind of mix and match them? I think there are going to be some instances where you will see Chase Claypool play some big slot.
I agree. As you said, mix and match will be the theme here, but they really seem to envision Claypool as that Z receiver last year. Didn't play him in the slot when there was clearly an opportunity to do there once Juju went down. And so I think they really view him as that Z receiver, but I think certainly guys will get moved around. Tim M, $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Tim. Is Leal enough to help stop the run? He's got to get stronger.
Not yet.
Not
Not
yet.
yet.
He's got to get stronger. He's got to add some weight. He's got to really put some sand in his pants. He's more of an upfield penetrator. And then you can stop the run by getting upfield and being aggressive. But certainly to play in this base defense, if you're going to play that 4-eye or over tackle over some of these bigger guards, you're going to need to get stronger. So that's going to be the key for him. He's got maybe some potential. He's a young guy. He's 21, but as Dave said, not yet.
You go back, you look at some of those way too early mock drafts from last year that mean absolutely nothing.
He was near the top.
He was one of those guys that they said you're probably going to be a first round guy. Once again, that means absolutely nothing at this point here. But another young guy that you hope you can that I think has some ceiling to him. That they'll spend a lot of his rookie season might even be inactive right out of the shoot, barring injuries or whatnot, kind of thing. And hopefully he kind of can grow into that role. And as Alex said, get stronger, get more sand in his pants, and pretty decent as a passer. I like some of his quickness already, and I like the hustle with him. I don't think he's a guy that you're going to have to constantly remind to run after the football.
No.
Heck, he ran 75 yards down the field on an interception again, who was it? LSU, I think, there. So that's the kind of stuff that that you'd like to see, and now you just want to put him into the mix and coach him up maybe the back, barring injury. I mean, who in their right mind thought Loudermilk was going to play the amount of snaps that he played last year?
Right. Or that
Uh,
Daniel Archibong would
right.
exist on a Steelers roster, much less in a game.
Right. So never say never about how much of a guy, how many snaps that a guy would play, but you would think, at some point he's going to see the field, hopefully 100 snaps or so, and start his developmental process. But he's not ready to be that guy right out of the shoot to help them stop that run.
Yep, strength and weight, the keys for him. About 10 minutes left, Dave. I want to end the stream right around 8 o'clock. So let's kind of speed through these last handful of questions. Do have a comment I wanted to read from Peanut Brooks, who says, I listened to Dave back in the day when he did the podcast by himself about 12 years ago. Did you do the podcast by yourself? I didn't know that.
If I did, I didn't do many of them, and it was probably awful if I did do any of them
All right.
that way. So I might have done one or two or three of them that I just losing track here. And if I did, I'm sorry.
Well, Peanut Brooks stuck around through that, so you left a good impression, it sounds like. Gregaria says, Hey, Dave and Alex, how confident are you two that a Minka extension gets done before camp? What are the Steelers willing to spend as far as average a year? He should be the top paid safety in football. I'm very confident the deal will get done, Dave.
I'm 99.5% confident it'll get done, and he'll either be the highest paid safety in the league or the second highest paid safety in the league.
And the rough number on that is what, 18? 18 and a half? Just
What are yeah, I don't know if anybody has anybody signed. I don't think anybody has signed. Let me look at the safety list real quick here. Now it won't be if he becomes the top, it won't be, but just like a little bit more, almost like the same situation with TJ Watt last year, right? So
mhm.
I'm looking at the list right now. Jamal Adams is 17.5 right now, and I don't know if any deals will get done before Minka's gets done. Obviously, the Bengals have a choice to make with uh,
With Bates, Jesse
yeah, with
Bates.
with Jesse Bates there. So I wouldn't be surprised it came in at 17.75.
Okay.
With Minka, but I think you're looking at 17.75 to 18 million what they call new money average. Obviously, he's on the books for 10 point whatever it is right now. So the new deal would probably be what's 5 times 18, Alex, and then add 10 point whatever to it.
Yeah, I'd have to do the math. I'm not quite sure, but I get what you're saying.
All right, so let me let the Google machine do that real
Yeah,
quick
because I don't
here.
need because it'll show up on my screen and I'll be embarrassed by my math
Five times
skills.
18's 90. Throw in the 10 million, so probably you're looking at a five, probably a 5 year extension at 100 million, 105 million, right around in there, probably.
Blue Cheer $10 super chat. Great work leading up to the draft. Any suggestions as to existing free agents to plug holes? I like Trey Flowers helping out the pass rush. Thanks. We did mention, I believe, Trey Flowers on one of our recent podcasts. Haven't identified a lot of names. I think in terms of edge rusher, Pernell McPhee, Alex Okafor, are some names. Running back, I'm not really quite sure who that could be. And same with offensive tackle.
Man, you look at the list of available guys, and you're hoping some of these teams around the league cut some players.
Hmm.
I think so. As we said earlier in this chat tonight, pay attention to that because the Steelers have a history of adding guys even much later into the offseason. So I'm pretty confident we haven't seen the end of them adding a veteran or two or three. So who those guys might end up being, no clue at this point.
Todd says, any concern about Pickett's 38 fumbles at Pitt? He did play a lot at Pitt, so I mean, there's some context there in terms of the relative numbers. I think his carriage of the football is the biggest thing. Not a hand size issue to me, but just making sure that ball's not dropping and swinging away on his hip. That's whenever I saw him lose the football the most.
Okay.
Ben Havin says, any other undrafted free agents you think can come in and compete? I like Bryce Watts, cornerback, 4.2 speed. Yeah, Watts interesting. I don't think he was a 4.2 guy. I think he ran 4.39, but has some size. Had a good game against Pitt. Probably helped put him on the Steelers' radar when they were looking at Kenny Pickett. So Watts, Durant, Chris Steele, the corner from USC, some names I'm keeping an eye on.
You've got somebody's got something on steel coming, don't they?
I do it hopefully next day or two. Not won't be
Okay.
tomorrow morning, but I'll do the profile on Chris Steele.
Yeah, I think you look, and not that you should judge the players this way, but you look at the signing bonuses levels that they give them. That kind of gives you somewhat of an idea of what the Steelers think as who the priority guys in this situation are. I think who are the ones that have gotten 15 so far? It was Durant got
Hmm.
15,000. I think Tucker, the tackle,
Yep.
got 15,000. 12,000 went to the edge rusher out of Auburn. Uh,
Moultrie and Warren got 12 grand as well.
right. So that might be the top of, we're waiting on, I think, five more, the signing bonuses on five more deals, but I wouldn't be surprised if those remaining five are like under $8,000
Hmm.
signing bonuses there. Once again, it's not the way to rank play or grade players, but I haven't been through the tape on a lot of these. I'm still learning a lot about these guys. But generally, you look at what the Steelers think of them in terms of signing bonuses. That tells you a lot there.
Right, and Jason is asking about Tyree Johnson, the edge from Texas A&M. You can see the report Jonathan did a little bit ago. It's up on the site right now. You can see it on screen, and just click there and you can learn more about him. Steel Pastors, Anthony Barr still available. He's clearly not going back to the Vikings. I think Barr's still available. Don't quote me on that, but I wouldn't have really much interest in Anthony Barr.
Right.
I think he's getting a bit older, as well as never really been a defined pass rusher. He was kind of done, a little bit of off ball and edge type stuff, but I'll pass on that. Tyler Moore, most likely to be with a team long term, Johnson or Claypool? Interesting question here at the end of the show. Who's got more staying power, Deontay or Claypool?
Look, Johnson's, and that's only if they get to. I Johnson right now, from where we sit here right now today, has to me the better shot of the two guys of signing an extension. But with that said, I don't have a lot of confidence right now at this moment that Johnson will sign an extension this offseason.
Right. So I guess technically Claypool would be here longer because he'll be here through next season.
Right.
So interesting question there,
I mean,
Tyler.
there's always a friend. You could get in a
Right.
situation where you don't extend Diontae Johnson, and he just off the hook 2022 season and forces your hand pretty much on a franchise tag, and see if he pulls a Le'Veon Bell on you.
007, do you think Kenny Pickett will start right away or sit a couple years? It won't be a couple years. If he sits, it's for a year or half a season. It's not going to be a couple of years. That's a very old school philosophy, but he certainly could start right away. I would not be surprised. They'll compete and battle it out this summer.
It could go either way, but the one of those ways won't be him sitting a couple of years.
Missouri Smith, and I just lost it because some chat came in. Missouri Smith was asking about the projected starting corners, though. We'll see. I mean, you have Witherspoon and Levi Wallace and Cam Sutton. What the combination will look like? Will Sutton bump more inside this year? We'll have to wait and see. But those are the top three corners on your depth chart. Let me find I can find just maybe one or two more questions to. We're not going to get to every question today. I apologize, but we appreciate everybody who sent in the super chat to have their questions asked and answered. Let me see if I can find Jay Avocado. Any thoughts on the tackles? I like Dan Moore. I think he can improve, but was not a fan of Chuck Wumar Core Force extension. Yeah, I wasn't crazy about it, but it's a team friendly deal. It's hard to find good tackles. They're super expensive in free agency in the draft. Obviously, Pittsburgh wanted to go quarterback, and so I think that's a big reason why they re signed a core for and Dan Moore. If he picks up where he left off the last 6, 8 weeks of last year, he'll be in good shape this season.
Yeah, look, it's even though it's the 3 years with the core four, that's a 1 year deal. You know, so a core four's got something really he has to prove himself. It's a year by year basis with him moving forward. You would hope he'd have more stability and at least make some sort of progression in 2022. And obviously Dan Moore's still cutting his teeth on this thing here, so you would definitely expect some progression, especially the way Dan Moore kind of finished out last year. I would expect there. I mean, if it doesn't, then boy, it's going to be hard to ignore tackle maybe being at the top of the
Hmm.
list of draft needs in 2023.
Mike, we have not yet announced the winner of the Depot draft contest. Is that something
David
that'll come?
O. David O. is scoring that, so give
Okay.
David a cut. That's a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
So just give us a couple days. Hopefully by the week, hopefully by the end of this week, we'll be able to announce the results of that. But please be patient with us.
Peanut Duck did retire from professional football. You did read that correctly. And let me see if I can find one or two more questions as we hit the 8 o'clock hour. Ali Howard Species 5618 says, I'm ready for Latrobe. Not a question, but a comment I wholeheartedly endorse. And let's see. Kevin, do you think the drafting of a quarterback in the seventh round means the end of Rudolph's run as a Steeler? $5 million a year is expensive for a clip board holder. For a backup quarterback, that's almost in line with what they make. I don't think the selection of Oladokin though is going to change Rudolph. They did that for a fourth quarterback, and they were not going to get him as a UDFA because some team would have paid a lot more money. And so I think that's the really driving reason why they drafted Chris Oladokin.
And if you want to get technical about it, Mason's set to earn $3 million.
Okay, yeah, there you go. So that's a pretty reasonable contract, and if he does become a backup at that value, then that again, like I said, is very reasonable. Paul, other than Miles Jack, do you expect any other current inside linebackers to be on this team next season? Any good free agent inside linebackers available next year? I don't know the latter one. Have not looked at it at all, Paul. But yeah, this inside linebacker room could look a lot different next year, Dave. Now,
Oh
Devin
yeah.
Bush officially a free agent after this year. Spillane will be one. Marcus Allen will be one. UG3 will be one. Miles Jack, no even guarantee he'll be here next year, depending on how he plays this year. Obviously, he will be under contract through next season. So it's a fair question to ask, but I don't have a good answer in terms of any names for next year.
Look, it's going to be interesting just to watch it play out behind Miles Jack and Devin Bush the rest of this offseason here.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one of the big battles to watch with, Mark Robinson also being added to that mix and Buddy Johnson. I always forget about Buddy Johnson. I apologize, but, he's got to definitely make some waves this year.
Mhm.
Steel Passer DJ traded for a 2023 first rounder. I think I might be a touch strong. I know Hollywood Brown went for a first. Maybe that kind of sets the bar, but I was pretty surprised to see Hollywood go for a first. And again, I think Johnson stays put.
Yeah, if you haven't traded him now, you're not going. I wouldn't think you're going to trade him.
Yeah.
I never say stranger. I guess stranger things have happened, but I would be surprised right now if they. I think if they were going to trade Deontay Johnson, that would have happened during the draft.
Right. You just drafted a quarterback, you signed a new guy in Trubisky. You want to give him as many weapons as possible so he has the best chance to succeed. Last question here comes from PBS. How do you want to say this? PB Snell Seniors, how we'll say it. Hey guys, just saw Tuzar Skipper released. Would you bring him to camp? I don't know. I mean, maybe. I don't have a good answer. I don't have a feel one way. I guess there's a need there, so I guess you could try it again.
I mean, it would obviously be a for the minimum. I wouldn't sign him and include obviously any signing bonus with any of that. And the more bodies, the merrier is always my view when it comes to that. Look, I think he is what he is. He's bounced around with the Titans now a couple of different times. He went to the Falcons at the end of I think last preseason there. The Giants obviously gave up on him fairly quickly. Or Steelers cleaned him off their practice squad, and they obviously had a chance to sign him back, but the Giants didn't. They didn't. So he's kind of one of those guys right now that's probably got 1 foot out of the league. So I wouldn't be surprised either way if they did or didn't sign him back. But boy, he sure would have a lot to prove to make the 53.
And one final one. Do you think that Oladokin is going to the practice squad to be the Lamar replica for practice, replace the Dobbs role? He could be. I think he'll start the year on the practice squad, but he wasn't drafted to be that Lamar guy. He can serve that role, but he was drafted to be a little bit more than that.
Who's that?
Oladokin.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
he can be that guy, the scout team guy that pretends to be Lamar because he's got some ability. He's obviously not Lamar, but he can replicate that. But that's not why they drafted him. All right, Dave, that's going to wrap up today's show. Appreciate everybody being here. We'll be back in 2 weeks as the Steelers rookie minicamp will be just concluding by then, I believe. And so excited to get to see the rookies on the field. As always, Dave, thanks for hanging out with us.
And thank you to all of everybody that showed. Thank you, Alex, and thank you to everybody that showed up in this live chat tonight. And we will archive it for people. Peace and
Yep.
love, everybody.
You guys can watch it back. We'll have some other content on the channel later in the week, probably some stuff on the rookie class and some film rooms on them. And also, if you're interested in my Out of the Park series, I'll be bringing that back hopefully this week as well. The Pittsburgh Pirates returning to the channel. And a last second $20 super chat here. Certainly not necessary, but appreciated just the same from Double HH, who says Van Halen. So somebody that heard the podcast this morning.
ah.
All right. Thank you so much, Double HH. Certainly don't have to do that, but we appreciate that very much. Again, thank you guys for being here. Great turnout tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed the draft, and we'll talk to you soon.